Down but not out. Job chapter 13, verse 15. Though he slay me, I will hope in him. Why trust God if you think he is the source of your problems? Job's three friends meant well. They were trying to comfort a person who was devastated by financial ruin, natural disaster, family death, and terrible health. The waves of suffering kept rolling in and crashing over Job, tossing him emotionally, physically, and spiritually against the rocks and shoals of despair. Zophar, the third friend, to try to comfort Job in his misery, bluntly tells him in chapter 11 that he is suffering because of his sins, something that was incorrect according to Job, chapter 1, verse 1, and that he deserves what is happening to him. In chapters 12 to 14, Job replies as he did earlier with his friends Eliphaz and Bildad. In this response, Job makes his bold declaration in chapter 13, verse 15. In this verse, and the surrounding context, Job states that even if God slays him, he will still take his case of innocence before God and plead, as would a lawyer, for acquittal. Job is affirming his faith in God and his innocence of sin. He would rather die proclaiming his innocence than continue to live under an assumed guilty verdict. Job was convinced he was innocent, and he was not afraid to be tried by God. The exact way one of the Hebrew words in the verse should be translated is unclear and can lead to two renderings of the verse. One carries a foregone conclusion of death. I have no hope. The second and more common translation gives the idea that even if death comes, Job will not relinquish trust in God. I will trust regardless. Either the verse is one of despair or one of hope. Assuming it is taken as a statement of hope and confidence in the midst of suffering, it is indeed a remarkable pronouncement of faith, similar to his words in Job 1:21, Job 2:10, and Job 19, verses 25 and 26. Three of Job's four friends offered advice that was well-intentioned, but wrong. Elihu was the exception in Job chapters 32 through 37. Job also had moments when his own thoughts were confused or incorrect. However, a thorough reading and study of Job shows a person who had a sincere, straightforward, and simple faith. Job's circumstances were complex, yet in the end, this man, who probably lived around the time of Abraham, understood that we live and die by the grace of God. Job also teaches us that we must live all of life by faith that God is good and aware of everything that happens to us, the good and the bad. Nothing happens to us that is beyond God's control and purposes, even though we are not always aware of those purposes. 2,000 years before the Apostle Paul lived, Job endured enormous suffering. But in the end, he trusted God. Now, 2,000 years after Paul's many adversities, we are living with struggles of our own. Just as Job's words in this passage were true for Paul and us, so too do Paul's words for us resonate the same idea. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28.